Estito. I'm Commissioner of the Office of General Services. And just a little background about myself. I spent 19, almost 20 years in the New York State Assembly and certainly worked with local governments and prided myself with working with local governments and specifically Anthony Pacenti, who is my county executive in Oneida County, and we had a very good working relationship. And I want you to know that I'm very pleased to be here at NYSAC because I think it's very important now in my new role as Commissioner of Office of General Services that we reach out and talk to the people who are our partners in government. Governor Cuomo is very much interested in helping our local partners, our local government partners, benefit from the savings that we are now putting into place with our OGS contracts and our new strategic sourcing. I want to introduce first some of my staff that are here. John Traylor, you'll hear from. This is going to be a tag team. He's our Chief Procurement Officer, and I know that you know, some of you know him from his past life at the Division of Budget with New York State, and also with the Office of State Controller. And we find that he is a great catch for us as our new Chief Procurement Officer at the Office of General Services, and he's been heading our strategic sourcing initiative. We also have Don Green, which I know is no stranger to many of you, and he's going to be, with many roles that he's played in the past, now he's going to be our Director of Local Government, which you will be happy to know that we are really going to have a unit, a division of the procurement, the strategic procurement offices. We're going to have a unit dedicated to local government and working with you. When I first joined the Office of General Services and accepted this appointment by Governor Cuomo, the governor and I talked about why we should do the things we need to do, the business case for shared services. And we talked about, for the state as a whole, achieving savings, avoiding costs, and reworking the way we do things. Increasing statewide efficiency using continuous improvement, capitalizing on homegrown and external best practices, looking at how we've done things, making sure that we discard what hasn't worked. And I can tell you that when I got to OGS, the state contracts, the state centralized contracts, I recognized even while I was in the legislature, were not working. They weren't the best price. You needed to negotiate. If you didn't negotiate, you might have been paying even more than if you had gone to the vendor yourself and done your own RFP, and you probably would have gotten a better price. For the agencies, the governor wanted to see if we could just allow the agencies to focus on their core mission and reduce the administrative costs and preserve core programs. In other words, let the agencies, whether it's transportation or OTDA or children and families, let them do their core mission and let us at OGS do the services, whether it be procurement or transactional HR or transactional finance. Let the agencies do what they're good at and let OGS do what we're good at. So we also want to reduce their administrative costs and preserve their core programs. For the public and our partners, this is where you come in, we want to provide better customer service. And I put that first because that's the one thing, and that's the message that I have brought to OGS, and that is to better serve our customers, whether they're the state agencies, the executive agencies, whether it's the independent agencies, the authorities, the authorized users, of which you are as counties. We want to make sure that we're doing the best we can, and again, that's why we have, because of Governor Cuomo, wanting to do more for local governments, recognizing that the 2% property tax cap is tough to live within, and we're living within it at state government. Making sure that we can provide you with some kind of savings at OGS. So more efficient use of tax dollars, greater accountability, and greater transparency. Why are we doing strategic sourcing? One, savings. Our goal in the executive agencies is to save $100 million in 2012-13 and $750 million, I think it says 775. We'll hope to get to 775, but we're aiming at 750 over the next 5 years, and that's all funds coming in. The other thing, we do have a private sector consultant with us, and one of my highest priorities in working with the staff and working with our private sector consultant is knowledge transfer. So our state staff is sitting side by side next to our consultants to learn strategic sourcing methodology. We are putting into practice what we're learning from our consultants so that we can build the foundation and move forward. We're going to have staff that will be able to do the analytical discussion. They will become the experts in the fields in which they are going to procure items. We're improving our process. We're modernizing our procurement strategies. We're reducing the administrative burden on agencies. We're speeding up the procurement process. I know that, in fact, for some of you, we had 5-year, 10-year contracts. We weren't getting the best price. We weren't getting things out fast for the agencies. We've heard that from our customers, the state agencies, and we also heard it from our private sector our public sector partners, excuse me. And we want to do that better. We're helping the state achieve its aggressive MWBE goals, so we're bringing more people into the marketplace, whether it be a minority or a woman-owned or a small business. We're getting more competition into the marketplace, and that also is driving down costs. So for those of you who want to use an MWBE or a small business in your community, we're bringing more of those people on board, more of those vendors on board in our strategic sourcing. And we're providing savings and benefit to all eligible contract users. What's our vision? What's our mission? Governor Cuomo has given us his goal, and that was to become a world-class procurement organization. And I share that goal, and I have articulated that to all of our staff. This is what we want to be. Our mission is to procure goods and services that benefit our customers, and you are part of our customer base, by providing the best value at the lowest possible cost. To utilize best-in-class contracting policies and procedures that are ethical, responsive, and efficient, support our economic development, and foster strong partnerships with suppliers. We're going to strive for the highest standard of customer service and continuously improve operations. To recap it, it's all about savings, efficiency, and service. And now I'd like to bring up to the podium John Traylor. I introduced him already, and he's going to talk about our accomplishments, and he's also going to talk to you about how you can get involved and a little bit sampling of what we've done so far. John?
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I did want to acknowledge Karen Storm, who's sitting with us here as a commentator. Karen's a purchasing director in Albany County and works actually closely with us on individual things, knows Don very well. So we have some folks who we work with closely, and obviously, as the Commissioner said, we're looking to really expand our customer base and demonstrate to you the value that we can deliver at OGS. We want to talk a little bit about what we've done so far. We launched the Strategic Sourcing Initiative about a year ago. That was actually prior to me coming over to be Chief Procurement Officer. We basically are taking a much different approach to the way in which we're trying to put centralized contracts in place. So for those of you that may not be familiar with what strategic sourcing is and how it differs kind of from what we did previously, it really focuses on a strong data and an analytic effort up front to really understand what the requirements are of what we need to buy, what the marketplace offers in terms of value and the total cost of ownership of the goods and services that we're looking to buy, and really by gathering a lot of quantitative data, either from our customers about what they bought in the past or what they expect to spend over the next 1, 2, 3 years, as well as getting data directly from our existing suppliers at a very detailed level, in some cases literally millions of lines of data, to look at the specific prices that we have been receiving on our contracts and helping us to identify opportunities where we could negotiate lower prices. That all goes into the development of a strategy for how we want to approach the market, whether that will be through a competitive solicitation, bidding or negotiating under existing contracts. All of those kind of decisions flow out of that very detailed analytic approach. And then, as the Commissioner mentioned, we're looking to try and find ways to speed up the actual procurement process itself. It's going to take us a while. We recognize this is a multi-year effort, but time is money in procurement, and being able to get a contract in place that you can purchase off of efficiently is really where we need to get to over the next couple of years. So we launched the first waves of strategic sourcing about a year ago and have delivered about $30 million in savings to date against that $100 million target that the Governor established for us. We were very excited that legislation that the Commissioner sponsored, and in some cases the Governor personally got involved with, that gave us more flexibility for you all to piggyback off of commodity services and technology, both local governments and nonprofits, for our state contracts, but more importantly, will exempt OGS contracts from pre-contracting approval by the State Controller's Office. So that lops anywhere between 60 and 90 days typically off our contract approval process. So it was one of the big steps that we took towards trying to get more efficient and get to market and get to contract more quickly. And obviously, the Governor, by putting the Commissioner in place and then asking me to come over in May, we're starting to build our procurement team with Dawn and some other folks. Very important that we have experts and the leadership to really get this all done, because we recognize, as I said, multi-year effort. It's going to take us a while. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about what I mean by data analysis. This is just a high-level view of where we started out. So about a year ago, we built, really for the first time, using the state's accounting data, the first comprehensive kind of database or snapshot of what the state spends in its non-personal service dollars on goods and services. We started out with about $18 billion in spending, and then removed things that were not part of the executive branch, because our initial focus is really looking at executive agencies. That's not to say that we're not working with SUNY and the State Controller and the courts to participate, but we really wanted to focus initially upon the executive agencies under the Governor's direct control. Then we pulled out things that aren't necessarily lend themselves to strategic sourcing, or aren't things that OGS sources. So things like certain kinds of employee travel reimbursement, right? Health insurance or pension costs, right, that are handled by other entities. And then that left us with about $8 billion in spending. We pulled out some things that don't immediately lend themselves to our strategic sourcing initiative. The biggest item there is construction services that are basically costs associated with capital construction for DOT and the other large construction agencies in the state. And that really got us to what we've been focusing on, about $3.1 billion in executive agency spending that we've been going after. We then drilled into that $3.1 billion at a very granular level, pulling sample invoice data, looking at who we buy our goods and services from, so all of the vendors, what agencies are the top agencies that spend money against those different categories, what does the historical spending look like, what does the marketplace look like in that category. All of that research was really done to develop a batting order, if you will, of the categories that we wanted to go after. And this pie chart just shows you, kind of at a very high level, what the state of New York, at least in the executive branch, spends most of its money on. Those three biggest slices are for IT, which is the single largest area that we spend, so that's hardware, software, consulting services, etc. Facilities management, so that's rent, cleaning supplies, all of that kind of work, janitorial services, etc. And then the third largest piece is med lab supplies and services. Obviously the state of New York runs a number of health labs, Ag and Markets has the big diagnostic lab. State Police has the forensics lab. A lot of very expensive and detailed supplies and services that we deliver there. That fourth slice is for professional and operational services. So that's everything from accounting services that the state buys to administrative services, which is one of our new contracts that we're putting in place right now. So that's everything from temporary secretarial services to skilled nursing. So it gives you a sense of what we spend our money on. That really developed then the batting order, as I said, and these are the categories that we've been going after currently and will be going after next year. The items in green are the ones that we've completed our activities on. So for example, we just put in place a new payment processing, or what we call electronic value transfer EVT contract, with much more attractive prices on a per transaction basis. So if any of you are using or taking credit cards for any of the activities that you do in your counties, I'd encourage you to look at that contract, because our new vendor, which is KeyBank Services, is providing very attractive per transaction pricing on that contract. We just finished our renewal of road salt contracts that we put in place last year. We negotiated on average about a 6% price reduction for road salt across all of our counties. Then in the renewals, we got further reductions of between 1% and 3%, and we got the vendors to waive all the storage charges through the end of the calendar year. That was a big issue for counties and towns because we had such a mild winter last year. That contract does have mandatory requirements for taking salt, and of course it was piling up, and people were saying, I didn't use salt, where am I going to put all this? So the ability for the vendor to waive those storage requirements and in essence leave that salt in the ground until our counties and towns need it was a big customer need that we took and negotiated successfully in a contract. So getting back to what the Commissioner was saying about trying to be very customer focused, gathering requirements from our customers and making sure the contracts reflect that, we were luckily very successful in that particular one. So these are some areas that we see as immediate areas for collaboration, certainly with counties and other local governments. I mentioned just road salt. Just put a new fuel card contract in place. Again, listening to our customers. The old fuel card was exclusive to mobile. The new one is now available for all or virtually all locations, not limited to a single gas type, so you don't have to drive around, or your employees don't have to drive around trying to find a mobile station. They now can pick the lowest price gas station around in an area, and then we get discounts off that are tiered based upon volume. So the more people we get on that contract, the more savings all of us are going to have. The vendor already deducts all of the sales tax and other applicable taxes that aren't applicable to local governments. Again, a big thing from our customers. Some folks were having to apply for rebates from our state tax department. You know, very inefficient, time-consuming, took your staff time to do. All of that's gone away. And we have a lot more robust reporting under that contract now, so you can get reports on gas card usage by your employees to look for issues that may be related to waste, fraud, and abuse. So we're very pleased with that contract, and again, I think it demonstrates our commitment to keep listening to our customers and putting a contract in place that really helps you manage your, in this case, fleet card services a lot more efficiently. We have what we think are the lowest prices in the country on our aggregate PC buys. So if any of you are buying desktops or laptops, you should really look at the OGS contract. We had a series of bidding events. In essence, we used round-robin bidding between the major PC manufacturers. HP won most of the lots under that round-robin bidding, and we have extremely attractive pricing for PCs and laptops under a number of different kinds of configurations. So I would strongly encourage you to check that contract out. And I mentioned the credit card EBT contract. Areas that Don and his team are really going to be working on, and he's going to come up and talk to you in more detail here in just a minute. Medium and heavy duty trucks, we know that's a contract that was rejected by the state controller, and we're working now to put together a new contract that obviously won't need their approval. But again, gathering information from your county highway departments. We put out an electronic survey and got some feedback from them, because again, it's important we understand what it is we need to buy on your behalf. School buses, e-publications, we're hearing a lot from our library associations, school districts, etc., that nobody buys books anymore. Everything is coming online through a subscription service, and these are very expensive services. And so looking to pool together that buying power across different types of governments is something that we're pretty excited about investigating. Energy is an area that OGS, again, got additional authority in the budget to buy electricity on behalf of local governments. And both Onondaga and I believe Oneida County is joining our electricity buy. We in essence operate as an ESCO now and have very attractive pricing for electricity. So that's something that we're very interested in seeing if we can be competitive and provide you with good pricing on it. So as I said, I'm going to turn it over to Dawn now, who's really leading up our dedicated team that we're creating to work with local governments on those contracts where, frankly, you represent the large majority, or in some places, you're all of the spending on a particular contract. So we needed to have a dedicated group that was working with all of our local governments, understanding your needs, and putting those contracts together. That's going to require some help from you so we can really understand what it is we need to buy on your behalf. So, Dawn?
Thank you. I just go straight just for 1 minute from the presentation. I just returned from Louisville, Kentucky, where the National Association of State Purchasing Officials annual meeting just happened. One of the things that became very clear to me and has been becoming clear to us over the last few years is that the procurement area has stepped up a great deal. It's becoming very, very data-driven. In order to be able to perform in this area and do the best job for your users, you have to know what you're buying. It's kind of elementary, and the systems are getting better, and people are, the procurement professionals out there are getting much, much better. We've got a lot of young whippersnappers. And they're really stepping it up. And you may have some in your organization. Those young 25, 28-year-old people who are very data driven. Everything is numbers for them. They manipulate data in 10 minutes that is just incredible. Those are the kind of people we're trying to attract, and that's the kind of skills that, as we're moving forward in our organization, we're going to foster in our existing staff, and if we're lucky enough to get additional staff, the same thing. And we're going to push people on your behalf to do that kind of stuff. So another thing that we see is, has anybody ever heard of WISCA? Okay, so at least one. There's a Western State Contract Alliance. It's the 15 or so Western states, and we know that they're doing a lot of things. We know that you have a lot available to you, especially with the recent legislation. So what we want to be able to do is have you look at us first. It's no longer geez, either I have to go there or I have to go to bid. We know that you have choices out there, and you were all instrumental in pushing that. So we want to get there. We want to be your choice. We already, as John showed earlier, offer what we think is great value to you, and we want to make it easier for you to do your purchasing. And we know that those piggyback options are available to you. Now, I know we've done a lot of benchmarking. PCs is an example, and it's very easy to now say I'm going to use another cooperative purchasing organization's contract. We urge you to take a look at some of ours and do some apples to apples comparison, because in many instances we have no administrative fees. So I think you should take a look at that. we communicate now with some of your organizations, your procurement professionals, and we know that communication is very important. So we want to be able to share that data back and forth. In areas where you're telling us you need things, we're going to come back to you and ask you, what is it you need, and how much do you buy, and when do you want to buy it, and what kind of stuff, and do you need this? Can you take an equivalent? Because in the procurement profession, we know that there is best value, but in a lot of instances, there's low price for things that you can accept. And we're also looking for ideas where perhaps we're not performing for you that we can work together on. So, what are our next steps? This meeting is an example. I mean, we brought our commissioner and our CPO and some pretty high-level people to this meeting, and I know that you appreciate that. We're doing this in other instances. We're going to continue to do this, attend more conferences, and we have a purchase council that includes county representatives. It includes some city representatives and some other, SAMPO and some other organizations that represent school boards, etc. We want to work together and we're going to actively do this. So if you have your purchasing people, have them reach out to us, okay? We're going to, as I said earlier, gather that data. We're going to look for it, and sometimes we'll come to you and ask you for that. It can be intrusive, believe me. It can be very intrusive to your companies that you buy from. When we ask that, we're going to ask you for some assistance in helping us gather that information, because they will push back on you. Believe me, it's not a comfortable position for them, and it's not a comfortable position for us. But we're going to push through on that. We want to use that information and that data to actually drive our procurement decisions, and so I ask you to be ready for that, or at least get your procurement people ready for that. Or in some instances, it might be another program unit within your counties. We want to be able to get the best pricing. We're not necessarily the lowest pricing. We want to do better. Much of this concept is best value. Okay, so the best pricing we can get based on what it is we're buying and how we're buying it. Okay. Is everybody here familiar with our surplus property program in OGS? Is anybody not familiar with that? Okay, well, we have a surplus property program that provides you all an opportunity to claim equipment that's on surplus. You can apply for it, you can identify it, and you can get it sent to you. Okay, we have an entire program that's dedicated to that. That also includes the federal surplus property program. So I know a lot of you in the areas where you do, you're trying to do some emergency relief, and there might be some trucks available or some generators or something else that will help you. We have a site, we have people dedicated in OGS to view that surplus property, and I'm asking you to please take a look at that. That's an opportunity for you. There's a website link here, and we can get you in touch with the applicable people in OGS that run that program. We're going to continue to do outreaches. Today's outreach, earlier in the week, I know we were
at NICOM.
Where were you? NICOM?
We were at NICOM.
Right. And we're going to be at the Association of Towns Town Highway Superintendent's meeting at the end of the month. The city of New York is a very big buyer. I know you all know that, but there are some counties that are big buyers, Erie and Onondaga, etc. We are meeting with the big buyers of New York City, their administrative services and their Department of Information Technology, and we are going to sit down with them, and we're going to throw this pie chart that you saw up on the board there, and we're going to say to them, here's where we're going. Here's our batting order. How can we work together? I know right now they're putting together a contract, or at least they've been discussing it very in-depth, a contract for e-books for their school districts. So that's going on, and it might have some application to you, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about with them. If any of your people attended our annual purchasing forum, we've had it for the last 12 years. I know Karen has attended it, and there have been some others who have attended that. This past year, we suspended that because we were in so much transition, and it just didn't make sense for us to have it at that time. We are going to reinvigorate that, but we're going to change it. We think we really have to change it to be more targeted training and not just this kind of general training about, well, here's everything on our contract, et cetera, et cetera. We want to really target that to what's going on in our area right now. We have already attended, had meetings with a number of organizations. I won't repeat them all, but you can see them here. Some of these affect you directly, and so we will have more. In October, there's a 3-day conference. It's really the governor's MWBE Conference. It's going to be in Albany. We've already, we're working with others to invite a number of vendors will be there, MWBE vendors, and we invite you to attend this, okay? There's a link where you can see that. So, this is the pitch right here, okay? We know that you are, in some instances, we know that you're the majority of the spend. It's undeniable, okay? You and the other localities. As we make decisions about moving forward, and we know that there's large spend, we really need to have your input. Because if we don't get the input, we're not going to make a good contract. You're our partners in this, and there's a strong commitment to assisting you in meeting your missions. As you see, the commissioner and John have already stated that they're putting big resources into local government now. Now, when I say large resources, we have 7 people at this point dedicated to local government purchasing in our organization. That's more than our past teams. We used to have, the team was normally 5 people or so, 4 people, depending on what it is. So it's almost 2 teams for us. And it's 1 team, but it's the number that we used to have for 2 teams. And so we really need your help there. We recognize ourselves. We're doing an interview of ourselves. We're looking inside ourselves and saying, we need to change. We really need to change our organization. And I think it's important for us that we convey to you that things are just necessarily can't be the same way that they've always had. We've had many contracts that are, whoever wants to come in, we'll give you a contract. Everything's there. You go ahead, buy from whoever you want, and you manage everything that you do with that. You do a number of mini bids, and in essence, what that did to you was have you dedicate a number of people to be able to get the best price you could put out of all of the choices. We need to change that a little bit, so we're asking you to recognize that. We're continuing a commitment to open dialogue and cooperation, and we plan on sharing information, and it's essential to do that. Here's a slide that provides my information, and Bruce Hollenbeck, amongst us, Bruce and I have 60 years, 65 years of experience in state. Most of that's in procurement, and so we're available. Please don't have everybody call us, okay? But we're providing you our information. We do have secretaries that answer the phone, but if you need to call me, please feel free to do so. Okay? Thank you very much. And we're going to have Karen speak now? Yeah. Okay, Karen Storm from Albany County Purchasing. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. My comments come strictly as a user agency of the state OGS contracts. And as you have mentioned, there are other opportunities out there now for local governments to look at other contracts with the larger organizations such as U.S. Communities and other organizations like that. But I would like to commend the Commissioner for the outreach to local government that has been occurring, and for the Purchase Council meetings, because it is there that local government does have a voice with OGS, and we have been very successful in sharing ideas. I commend you, Don, for going to the Highway Superintendent's meeting, because the big highway trucks have been a real big issue at all of our meetings. It affects all of us, so I commend you for going there.
Right, if there were tomatoes, I would have been sauce.
Yes, it's a very tough discussions when it came to that. But it's been good that we have the back and forth that we've been able to have. And also stating that I agree with OGS. OGS was not always the best price. A lot of times local government could go out on their own and we could get better pricing. But just to let you know that some of that is changing, and with your gas cards, that is one of them. Albany County, we put out our own fleet gas card RFP. Wright Express came back. They were the best proposer that we had. And about 3 weeks after we awarded the contract, we were getting into contract negotiations, he contacted me and said, wait a minute, I've just been signed with New York State OGS. Their program is much better. He said, hold off, don't award your contract, and go with the OGS contract. We are going to see much higher rebates than we would have on our own with Wright Express. So, and as Don states, as it grows, we will be able to hopefully see some additional savings to that. So that was one of the programs that you used for strategic sourcing, and it did work. We found it to be very helpful. I had another local government story. It was, and actually I did forward this on to Don to let him know that local government really does depend on OGS for some of their things. They had ordered their calendars in previous years through the New York State OGS contract. Her spend last year on that was like $495. This year, it was close to $1,300 for the same exact items. She had to do her own bid because the OGS contract had lapsed or was not being rebid. So there was a huge, significant difference for this local government because OGS wasn't able to, redo their contract. So we do appreciate the efforts of OGS and what they can save at the local government level. That's all the good news. And then I guess here comes where local government would like to see a little bit more, and I see some of the people out there that know me smiling. We appreciate the outreach effort, and I have gotten some calls from OGS wanting to know, well, local government is saying we want this contract, we need this contract, but how much do you spend? And that really is incumbent upon the local governments, us ourselves, to be able to get that information to OGS. I'm one of the lucky ones. I have a system where I can go in and I can give them that kind of information that they're looking for. Some of the smaller towns and cities, even the smaller counties do not have those kinds of systems. So it is difficult when we ask OGS to keep a contract if we can't give them the information they need to bid it. So I think having contracts lapse has been a problem for local government. When we depend on the state contract You know, we go there, we think we're going to use it, and it's going to expire. There's not a new one in place. So that's been difficult on a local government level. But we do appreciate the outreach that OGS is now providing. I think working collaboratively with OGS is a good idea, reaching out to hopefully be able to increase the pricing that we can see and the discounts we can see off the price list is a great idea. But I just thought I would provide to you some of the comments that I hear through SAMPO. And I have suggested to Don and perhaps that maybe you could join the organizations such as these. I'm sure maybe I could talk to some of the board members, as specifically at SAMPO, to have you be, at least one of your team members, be a part of our Member Connect, where you can see the issues that go on day to day, where they're looking for, you know, assistance from the state, where, you know, they're going, I can't find this on state contract, is it there? That might be a tool that would be useful to you from the purchasing side, from a specific purchasing organization. So, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we'll open it up to questions from the floor. If folks have any questions?
Just a comment as well that Commissioner alluded to in terms of something from Oneida County. We are entering into a contract with OGS for energy. It's a significant savings to our numerous buildings. Look at the jail, sheriff's office, 911, all of our county buildings, public works. We're a rural county like everybody else. We have buildings across our county, and the energy savings is significant to us. So I would encourage everybody to sit down and take a look at it. And there is significant savings there.
Thank you. And to add to what County Executive Pacenti is saying, we have someone who will come out and talk with your people with regard to that utility purchase. So we have specialists that have been doing it for the state agencies and the executive agencies, and it's new legislation, just so you know. We got the authorization, as John referred to in his presentation. We got authorization in last year's budget. So we're pushing for that, and we do see where we can save counties and local governments more dollars. Yes?
Handouts,
Excuse me?
handouts of presentation.
We don't, but they did film it, so it's here for you
Yeah,
to.
and we could certainly
And we could
try and
certainly-
make something available through NYSAC.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep, we'll make something available.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
This may be directed more towards Karen. In regards to the fuel cards for your county, did you use it more as a supplement to your bulk fueling stations, or did you totally?
Yes, it was for our, you know, our children, youth and families, our health department, our, you know, our motor pool cars, not our highway trucks. Yeah.
Right, and that's true
Yeah.
with most of our authorized users. When we did the market research on this one, this is actually pretty interesting, and I'd encourage you to do the same thing. A lot of our agencies were saying, you know, we're not big users of the fuel card now, but we expect usage to go up significantly, primarily because of the capital costs associated with retooling a lot of their bulk fueling stations. People started to do the cost-benefit analysis, and they're like, you know what? We're probably going to shut down a few of our bulk fueling stations because the retrofitting to meet new EPA standards, et cetera, is so costly. It's not worth it for us to do that. We're going to probably keep those where we've got heavy equipment, but for our passenger light-duty vehicles, we're going to really start to look at moving many more of those to the fuel card. So we wanted to put a contract in place that was anticipating that future demand, and that's why we negotiated this tiered pricing structure. So as volume goes up, we're going to get, you know, better discounts for everybody. So we looked at it not just what we could save on the fuel card, but the opportunity costs, if you will, for folks who are telling us, you know, I don't want to spend millions of dollars redoing my bulk fueling station. Makes a lot more sense to move a good chunk of my fleet over to a fuel card.
And I just want to make a comment. Don talked about the piggybacking, and we were supportive of allowing local governments to do piggybacking off of GSA and some of the other private organizations, the co-ops. I just want to make sure that, you know, buyer beware, just make sure that whatever commodity or service, it was competitively bid, it wasn't just a awarded contract, because we don't want any of our local government partners getting caught at the other end. If you're involved in an audit, the state controller is going to look at it, and if it wasn't a competitively bid piggyback or whatever commodity or service you used, you may get into trouble. So make sure that whatever you're piggybacking on, make sure that the all-inclusive costs, as Don talked about, make sure it's a deliverable. You know, there's no extra fees. Just look at the small print. Do you agree,
Oh,
Karen?
absolutely.